Hello everybody, welcome to Limavady and its surrounds. We're in Roe Valley Country Park at the moment. My name is Petra and I'll be giving you a little guided walk around Limavady. So we're in the Roe Valley Country Park and we're standing on a rock on which in a few centuries ago a castle stood. That was the castle of the O'Cahans. Many areas are associated with a particular family. Here in Limavady that is the O'Cahan family. And this is where they had their castle. They lived here until the 1700s, and then the castle was destroyed. That's why you can't see a castle right now. The area of Limavady has been settled for a very long time. We don't know exactly when the settlement started, but we do know that the Celtic clan of the O'Cahans lived here. They had a castle here on this side. The area that is now known as the Roe Valley Country Park was their garden, and there's a lot more connected with the family in the park and in the town. We'll just move on now and we'll have a look at other items of interest here in the park. So now we have come to near the visitor centre in the country park, which is just on the other side of the wee pond. Behind me, if you look really closely, you might see the statue of a dog. Anybody know the well-known artist Maurice Harron? You can immediately recognise it as one of his works. This dog is jumping. Limavady, or in Irish, Lim an Vadi, means the leap of the dog. One day the O'Cahan family was threatened from their enemies from County Donegal. They were the O'Donnells and they were attacking the castle. They were besieging the castle and the O'Cahans couldn't get out, but they had a wolfhound with them and they tied a message around the wolfhound's neck and they sent him to their friends on the other side of the River Roe. So the dog went along the Roe, found a nice spot where he could leap over, leapt over the Roe, got to the friends, and the O'Cahans were rescued. This is the origin of the name of the town, Limavady, Lim Amwadi. In the 1700s, the linen industry was very widespread in Ulster and Limavady was one of the centres. Behind me, you can see the ruins of an old building that was a beetling shed. Beetling was a part of the process of making linen. When you first produced the linen, it was a little bit rough, so it was beaten with loads of little like wooden hammers, and they were called beetles. So this was a beetling shed in which this took place, and after the beetling the linen was nice and smooth. We've now come to the centre of Limavady town, and behind me you see this beautiful bright pink mural with a beautiful bright pink background. This has been created for the Stendhal Festival, one of many events because arts and culture and music and the likes is very prominent here in Limavady. So this music festival usually runs in August for a weekend at a farm just outside Limavady, and it's really worth coming. Check it out next year. It's every year except for this year, unfortunately, but check it out. Look out for it next year. I said we're across the road, just opposite the Roe Valley Arts and Cultural Centre. We'll talk about that. I'll turn around and have a look at that in a wee minute. But before we do that, I want to take your attention just down the road a little bit. On the other side of the road, you see a shop with pink shutters. And that is the house of a lady who lived in Limavady. Her name was Jane Ross. She was a teacher and she lived in the 1700s. And one day she was sitting in her house, looking out the window, and she heard this beautiful tune being played. There was a fiddler who would play a lot here in the town. His name was Jimmy Curry, and he was also known as Blind Jimmy Curry because he was blind, he couldn't see. But once one sense is not functioning, you know the way the other senses compensate for that. He had a fine sense of hearing and he played a fine tune on the fiddle. And there he was playing this tune. Jane was so enchanted. She ran down and she asked him to keep playing it and play it again and again so she could write it down. And that tune you will have heard of. It's very much connected with Limavady. It is the tune known today as the the Londonderry or Derry Air, and today it is known as Oh Danny Boy. Oh Danny Boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside, as you see written here on this beautiful sculpture by Philip Flanagan, placed in front of the Arts and Cultural Centre. The statue is called the Londonderry Air. For obvious reasons, it is about the tune I was just talking about, and you can see the water flowing down the hill. Now, the tune itself has a bit of a longer story. It goes back to the O'Cachan. One of the O'Cachan chieftains is said to have written a tune, O'Cachan's Lament. It wrenches your heart. He's said to have had a little bit of help in writing that tune. One day after a nice party at the castle, he went back home along the row, and the alcohol took effect and he felt a little bit tired and he fell asleep in a hollow. Now, his servants were wondering why he wasn't returning home, so they set out to search for him, to rescue him. They heard the sweetest music played by his harp, and they followed that music and found him in his hollow. They realised that it wasn't him playing, he was fast asleep. The harp was being played by fairies, and again, it was a heart-wrenching tune. You couldn't not listen to it. So they listened, and after a while the alcohol stopped wearing off a little bit, and O'Cachan woke up. He realised that the fairies were playing this beautiful music, and he didn't let on that he had woken up, but he kept listening, and he listened to the tune until he was able to play it himself. And then he showed that he was awake, and the fairies vanished, and he went back to the castle and entertained everybody with this beautiful tune. Guess what? This tune is known as the Londonderry or the Derry Air. It's played all over the world, entertaining people and wrenching their hearts. So we've walked down Main Street a little bit from the Arts Centre, and we're now at Drummacoast Church at the bottom of Main Street and its cemetery. Beside me is the grave of Jane Ross, the lady who got the Blind Fiddler to play the tune often enough for her to be able to write it down. They say she gave him a gold sovereign for playing the tune for her again and again. That would have been quite a lot of money at the time. Later in life, the fiddler, Jimmy Curry, didn't do very well. He wasn't well, and he ended up in the workhouse, and when he died in the early 1800s, he was buried in Tamlacht Vin Lagan in Ballykelly. Jimmy Curry spent his last years in Limavady workhouse. He wasn't the only one. There was hard times in the town as well. And if you know about workhouses, if you know about Limavady workhouse, you might know there's a pauper's graveyard associated with the workhouse. So you will have realised Limavady has a lot to explore. You can go to the country park. You can explore the town itself. There is a museum in the town, and the Museum of Orange Heritage, and there is also a linen museum at the country park. If you want to explore a little bit further, Limavady is at the foot of the Binnevena mountain. There's a beautiful lake up there, and the views are amazing. And don't forget another story that happened just on the outskirts of Limavady at the end of the 1800s, just before 1900s, on a farm on the Broighter Road. Two ploughmen were ploughing the field, and they found that they were getting a bit of resistance. There was something hard, and they stopped ploughing and started digging, and they found the most amazing hoard of gold, a golden torque, and the most intricately designed golden boat with benches inside and oars and everything was found. This was very surprising. They took it into the house to wash it. I'm sure a few of the very fine pieces went down the drain before they realised what they had. It was the biggest gold hoard ever found in Ireland. Now, there was a little dispute after this. Who owns this? And it even led to a court case in the Superior Court in London. The thing was, if it was lost, it would be a thing of finders keepers. And if it was intentionally buried for somebody else or oneself to retrieve at a later state, it would be public ownership. So in the end, the court case was settled, and it was decided that it was public ownership, and the treasure was displayed in the museum, the British Museum in London. Later it was given to the National Museum in Dublin, where you can still see it today, but you will find a replica in the Ulster Museum in Belfast. Absolutely fantastic work, and was found just here. That's the Broighter Gold hoard. If you recently saw Broighter Gold on a bottle of rapeseed oil, that's the same farm that's producing the oil, and that's using that name in a very clever way. The boat I mentioned in the gold hoard is said to be a dedication to the sea god Manannán Mac Lir, who you can see on a viewpoint high up on the Bishop Road overlooking Lough Foyle. That's another thing to see. I hope you have been inspired to come here to Limavady, explore the town and its surroundings, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.